Hello, everyone. I'm Rika Kowatai. I'm the director and vice dean for the program. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in a Master of Laws program in global legal practice. Spring term classes for LM students have just started, and I had my first Japanese law class this morning. There were also JD students and exchange students from our partner schools in my class. So students who hadn't yet arrived in Japan participated online, but we were able to have a good discussion in the classroom using Zoom. So discussing with students from different backgrounds is a valuable learning experience for me too. So tonight I have Professor Litt, Professor Tanigawa, Professor Monroe Sheridan, and Ms. Murakami from the Academic Affairs Group with me tonight. And above all, we have recent graduates of this program here with us. So I hope you will find this session informative, and I hope you will choose to join our community. So I will now hand this over to Professor Monroe Sheridan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So thanks to everybody who's joined us today. I'm just going to very quickly talk about our admissions process. I apologize for the noise there. My notes just finished printing. So I want to quickly run through the basic framework that we have, as well as the documents you can expect, and where to go for more information. I think that'll be helpful for everybody who is interested in the program and wants to dig into the application process. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Let me see if... Is that better?
We can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. So as most of you hopefully know, our program has as its primary goal the cultivation of global legal professionals. So we want to help current legal professionals become more global in their skill set, or current students, soon-to-be graduates, who want to take on that role in their future career. And our application process is oriented towards applicants who we believe would be a suitable fit for the program's goals. So we have 2 matriculation periods every year. This is something that may not be familiar to those of you who are coming from other programs where there is an intake, say, once a year in April or once a year in September. Our program has an intake every year, both in April and in September. And that means that we also have 2 application periods. So we have an application period usually around May. And when you do the May application, you can apply for the intake of September of that year or April of next year. Depends on what your particular preferred matriculation period is. And then we have a second intake that is typically around December. And if you apply in December, you can apply for the matriculation in April of the next year or in the September after that. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in the application process. And in principle, we do our best to evaluate applicants equally, regardless of when you apply and regardless of your preference for intake. So that's the basic framework in terms of the matriculation periods and application periods. So what do you need to apply? All of the information is available in this this is just a printout of a PDF that is available online on the Keio website. It's the application guidebook. So if you want to get all the detail, this is the place to start. It's linked on the Keio LL.M website, and it has a table of contents that will guide you through the whole process of exactly what you need for your application. The basic set of documents you'll need are, there's 2 statements of purpose, rather a statement of purpose and a second statement, which is an analysis of a legal problem. The statement of purpose is a statement as to why you want to apply to the program. The analysis of a legal problem is to give us a sense of your analytical thinking and your skill set in that area. We also require proof of English proficiency because this is a global program. If you are a native English speaker, then you may be exempt from the proof of English requirement, but we we have to evaluate those requests for exemption on a case-by-case basis. So please contact us in advance of submitting your application in that case. This is all this is covered in the application guidebook. And I think Saji-san just helpfully posted a link to the application guidebook in the chat window. Thank you, Saji-san. That's the website, the whole admissions website, and the guidebook is on that website. Okay, so letters of recommendation. We encourage applicants to submit 1 or 2 letters of recommendation. Generally speaking, we would like to have one from somebody who either advised you or oversaw some of your academic work. So a professor for one of your classes or a research advisor at a university where you studied. And of course, we also accept letters from, for example, your employer, your boss, or somebody else you've worked with, if you have professional experience and you would like to submit a letter attesting to that. But we'd like to get an academic perspective if possible. You also have to submit a resume. There's a format that's provided, it's straightforward, and transcripts, academic transcripts and certificates of graduation. Generally speaking, these documents can be submitted online, and originals can be mailed later where necessary. That was a change that we made due to COVID because of the instability or unpredictability of the global mailing system now. So to reduce the disruptions in the application process for applicants and to try to make it as fair as possible, we have allowed, generally speaking, we've allowed the submission of documents online, and there are specific instructions as to which documents we will request you submit in the original by mail. Okay. The application schedule. So there's a pretty detailed schedule for the application, and then it's not really necessary to screen share it. So I'll just hold this up here. This again is from the application guidebook, but you can get a sense of this being a pretty detailed schedule. So it's worth taking a look at the application guidebook once you know which matriculation period you're interested in, which application period you're interested in, so that you can get a more specific sense of what documents you're supposed to submit by what time, and when you can expect to get the results of your application. As far as the application process goes to date, we have accepted students from many continents, North and South America, Europe, Africa, and then within Asia, we've had students from Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia. And David, have we taken any students from Oceania? I'm actually not sure about that.
We have exchange students from Oceania. I think actually we have had at least one an Australian admitted lawyer in the program of Japanese descent. But yeah, we have had people from Australia, and certainly, yeah, and New Zealand we have exchange students from.
Yeah, we have in the exchange program, we have students from all over the world as well. And the exchange students and the LM students are often in class together. But as far as the application process goes, we have received a pretty geographically diverse set of applicants, and we're pleased with the geographic diversity of the program to date. Okay, as far as requirements for application go, you will need to read the application guidebook to get the very detailed specifics. But the basic ideas are that, one, you need to have an undergraduate degree to qualify for application. Secondly, you must have a degree in law or equivalent experience. So that could mean that if you have an undergraduate degree that's not in law, but you have a Juris Doctor in your home country, that will qualify you as having legal knowledge. Also, if you have experience working in a legal context, we've had students who have not majored in law, but have actually passed the bar exam and worked as a lawyer, for example, in another country, in countries where you're able to take the bar without having a law degree. So we expect to see, going back to the goal of the program being to help cultivate global legal professionals, we expect that the applicants will have this kind of minimum standard of having an undergraduate degree and also having legal experience that is equivalent to having a bachelor's degree of law. Yeah, That is the basic framework. Again, I would encourage people to take a look at the website that Saji-san has linked in the chat and to read the application guidebook once you know that you want to apply, because you want to make sure that you have time to gather all your documents. The deadlines are pretty inflexible. So unfortunately, I mean, there are, on a case-by-case basis, sometimes it's possible to make accommodations, especially in the time of COVID. But generally speaking, you do not want to be in a position where you have to rely on a special treatment for an exemption, because it's typically not something we're able to do. But of course, we try to be as fair as possible to all applicants. But it's best if you don't find yourself in a position where your application is not going to arrive by the deadline or something like that. So that's the basic framework, basic summary, and that is just about all I have. So I guess I will now turn it over to, should I turn it back to Murakami-san, or should I go to David? Murakami-san, do you want to?
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Malo Sheridan. Next, Professor Litt, who is the head of LLM Academic Affairs Committee, will explain about the curriculum for LLM program.
Thanks. You may recognize me from that introductory video that was playing on a loop, those of you who saw that. I'm a former practitioner, and still am associated with a law firm as of counsel, and have been a full-time faculty member at Keio since 2015 now. And I'm in charge of the, as Murakami-san said, the Academic Affairs Committee, which deals with the curriculum and related matters. Let me share a link in the chat. You all can see the website. There's a list of all the courses that are on the website. And I think if you, I think in the overview page, there's probably a brief description of the requirements to graduate from the program. It's pretty flexible, what you actually take. There are not a lot of required courses or anything like that. I think for, for most people who meet our certain entry standard, you can graduate with 30 credits, and you have a lot of flexibility about how you take courses. You can take what you want, and we try to arrange so that there is few schedule conflicts amongst the courses as possible. There are a few that overlap with each other, but we try to minimize those. The courses are in a number of areas. The first, if you look at this course catalog, first is Japanese law and Asian law in global perspective. A lot of people who are coming from outside Japan to study in Japan want to take courses in Japanese law. And we've developed a number of courses where Japanese law is taught in English, and have worked hard to make sure that there are materials available so that people can study Japanese law in English as they're here. The second category is called Global Business and Law, and that's probably the largest category of courses. Many people who are taking an LLM coming to Japan, of course, have an interest in either working in a law firm representing businesses or doing business law, or working in-house inside a company in a legal area, and so they want to take business law classes. This category also has a number of classes, I believe, that are dispute resolution focused. And we'll talk more about those when we talk about the certificates. The third area is called Global Security and Law, and it has some public international law classes, including space law. We have on our faculty the leading Japanese, or a leading Japanese scholar in the law of outer space who's working with the space agency on a lot of the legal issues that come up in launching satellites and all the other activities of outer space. Law of international organizations, learning about the United Nations entities, the World Bank entities, things like that. The next area is called Innovations and Intellectual Property Law, which is pretty much what it sounds like. We have a nice group of intellectual property courses, and we have leading internationally intellectual property scholar Toshiko Takenaka, who's here in the spring, and is at the University of Washington in another part of the year. We've gradually filled out so that we have more intellectual property classes around the year. We have area studies classes, again, typically focused on Asia or the European Union. We've had some courses related to European Union. Comparative law. Comparative law is kind of a catch-all area for generally more academic classes. Reed and I teach a number of American law focused classes, and then there's comparative constitution, comparative contract, comparative corporate. And there's a last category called current legal issues, which picks up a number of specialized courses of interest to students. And then we have legal research and writing. We have a graduate writing seminar that's taught both semesters now. It's an introduction to serious academic graduate legal writing that we encourage everyone to take who wants to do a research paper. And then we have research papers that are available to, you can find a supervisor who's qualified to supervise you on the topic you're interested in, and do a 2-credit or a 4-credit research paper, depending on the amount of time and effort you'd like to put in. We have had a number of student papers that have been published. I just got my latest edition of the Keio Hogaku in my mailbox at the school a couple days ago, and saw that the paper from one of our LLM students was published in that edition on a topic related to international mediation and arbitration. German student who's just back in Germany in practice now. And then the last but not least, the category is practical training. We want to offer a lot of courses that give people the chance to practice law, whether it's a negotiation class, an arbitration class, a drafting class, moot court, or internships. We know that people in the LLM program want to improve their skills. They want to get better skills so that they're more marketable, and so that when they go to work, they can jump in with both feet into their job. So the internships tend to be held outside of the actual term, sort of at the end of each of the 2 terms, and are either sort of 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks or longer, depending on how many, and depending on the length of the internship, you get a number of credits. Many organizations like to keep interns even longer, and that's fine as well, although I think you're capped at 4 credits from internship. There's an internship committee that has worked very hard to try to find placements at law firms and companies, as well as some other institutions. We have an intern who's going off to the Singapore International Arbitration Center this month, I believe. Although I think he's doing it remotely, if I remember, given the pandemic. It's been a bit of an issue for the internship program, but we've switched to some remote internships, and we're hopeful that the internship program will be up and running fully by the next interterm period. The other thing I want to mention is our certificate system. It's also described on the website. I think you can find it if you're pretty easily. I won't put the link in. We see that many other LLM programs at leading universities now are specializing. If you go to the University of Washington with a double degree, you can get an LLM in business or international development or healthcare law or tax. And so you can get specialized LLMs. That's quite difficult to do given the way that the law schools are set up in Japan. So instead of trying to set up a number of parallel programs, we've came up with a certificate system where you can get a dean's certificate that you specialized in a particular area. And we now have 5 certificates that students can choose among. You can only get one. And to get a certificate, typically you need to do a minimum of 10 of your 30 credits in that area, plus a research paper in that area. And then for some of the certificates, you also need to take a practical training course in that area as well. The certificates are in business law, international dispute resolution, Japanese law, law and development in Asia, and intellectual property law. And I think, I'm not sure this semester, but actually in our recent graduating cohort who graduated last month, I believe half the students got certificates, or roughly half the students got certificates. And so a significant number of people are taking advantage of this because they do want to specialize, and they also want to develop their skills in an area, and they want to have something to show as they go forward in their career that they have put in the effort in a particular area. I guess the only other thing I would say a word about, maybe it would come up anyway in the Q&A, but is the pandemic itself. We went to essentially fully remote teaching last year when Tokyo entered an emergency declaration. The university started doing some in-person and hybrid classes in the fall, but by and large, the law school classes were still taught, over various online methods. We've had difficulty with some of our students, and at the beginning of the fall term, a significant number of our students actually not being in Japan at the beginning of the term and not being able to get entry visas, so that we saw gradually over the fall term students arriving in Japan. We just started our spring classes this past week, and it's nice to finally meet students who I was teaching by Zoom last fall, and now they're here in Tokyo and in the classroom. We're doing kind of a hybrid at this point because we still have, particularly from the new students, a number who cannot yet get to Tokyo, of students who are coming from outside the country. So we're trying a hybrid where we have a class and we also have people attending remotely. And we'll hope that, as with last fall, gradually over the next month or two, as long as the pandemic doesn't get really out of control here, that gradually people will be able to get to Japan. Japan has a plan to vaccinate all of the older residents, age 65 and older, over the next 2 months. And then by, I think, realistically, July, they'll start to be vaccinating people who are younger and do not have pre-existing conditions that make them vulnerable to the virus. So we're hopeful that, knock on wood, by the time the next semester rolls around in fall, we'll be, completely back to our normal, program operations.
Since we're a little bit ahead of schedule, can I make 2 quick points?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought I was going to run out of time, but we now have a few minutes. So just very quickly, to jump back to the application process. Sorry to everybody who is now maybe experiencing a little bit of deja vu. But with respect to the qualification to apply to the program, if you're not sure if you meet the qualifications, you can apply for a basically determination as to whether you are eligible to apply. So you have a process for that, and that also is covered in the application guidebook. And then finally, I mentioned before that the application periods are typically in May and December. Now, in these upcoming application periods the first one is in May, and the second one is at the end of October and in November, the upcoming 2 periods. And before those periods begin, for example, the application for a determination as to whether you are eligible to apply, and the application for determination as to whether you are exempt from the English language requirement, those have to be done before the application period starts. So you want to look in advance. Just make sure that you give yourself enough time so that you can gather your documents and make the appropriate application. Sorry to bring everyone back to the application topic, but I did want to use the time to make those 2 points. Thank you.
Great.
Oh, and yes, so I believe that Tanigawa-sensei, Tatsuya is going to make some remarks, and we're right on schedule now. So please, Tanigawa-sensei, go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. So good evening, everyone. Depending on where you are, probably for some of you, good afternoon, or for some of you, good morning. I'm Tatsuya Tanigawa. I'm a professor of Keio Law School, as well as a partner lawyer of Nishimura and Asahi, which is the largest law firm in Japan. As a practitioner, I've been handling various corporate matters, including mergers and acquisitions, and I've been practicing for more than 20 years. And as a professor, I also teach mergers and acquisitions. And today, let me talk a little bit about practical features of our courses. At Keio Law School, a number of practitioners teach various subjects based on their practical experience. Therefore, we can provide you with a very good balance of courses from both academic perspectives and practical perspectives. And some of you may have studied law at your undergraduate or by yourself. And I believe, you know what law says to some extent. But that is not the end of your study. Law exists, not because people just want to learn it, but because we apply it to our life in order to, make the society better. So we have to take, appropriate actions by utilizing our knowledge about law. And we need to train ourselves to be better at utilizing our legal knowledge. And by utilizing your legal knowledge, you need to make strategic and practical judgment as your wisdom, and not just providing you your legal knowledge. But however, those strategic and practical perspectives are not often written in textbooks, but we teach them here by giving, a good example based on our, practical experience. And then I understand, all of you are carefully considering your future, but we strongly believe that what you're going to learn here will be your precious assets, whatever you do after the graduation. Thank you very much for today, and good luck with your study. We all look forward to meeting you again. Thank you.